Hello, students, and how are you today? I had the most lovely day yesterday. Everybody was in a good mood. The weather was nice. It just was a lot of fun being alive yesterday. And, we can make every day like that. I sometimes forget that just kind of saying it and believing it kind of does help make it happen. So, in the spirit of that, let's have a great math class. We'll start with our do now. And we have an interesting conversation about waiting. I know that I am sometimes not a good waiter. I can get really impatient, so I'm going to work on my waiting skills. Our objective today is we're going to continue what we started yesterday with the subtracting of linear expressions. Our essential question will be how can we subtract linear expressions, but we also want to think about when we should use the distributive property when we subtract those expressions from each other. So our assignment will be to complete that do now that we talked about with the topic of waiting. We'll complete the 2 work pages, the extra practice and the error analysis. You know I love my error analysis. We'll complete our exit ticket and make sure you know this. Show your work to the teacher. So many of you have been terrific about that. And when your computers are kind of not doing so well and they're getting all wonky, so many of you have emailed things to me, and that's just great. So diligent. I appreciate all your hard work. So if you don't get finished in class, you can just finish it for homework. But you guys have been great. You've been finishing it. Hey guys, Pi Day is coming, right? It's all about fun, okay? Memorize as best you can. None of us are going to be perfect. Join in with the fun. Lean into this. Be a doer. Let's just go down and have some fun and let's make some great memories this year. Let's be one of them. And we also are giving credit for that too. So you can do this. So our exit ticket will discuss distributing. And we'll give an example of that. But here's that do now that I was talking about. So is it easier to wait for things you are looking forward to or things that you dread? Because sometimes when you look forward to something, you can't stand waiting. You just want it to be here so you can experience it. Sometimes you can't stand waiting because you're not looking forward to something. So either way, how can you improve your waiting skills? Oh my gosh, that is such a hard question. And I usually come up with examples. I'm even having a hard time coming up with an example of how to improve my waiting skills. I guess I could try to keep myself busy. I know that lots of times we pick up our phone, but I guess I could read the news while I'm waiting. But what would be really nice if I could just sit and kind of fold my hands in my lap, relax my shoulders, take a deep breath, and just relax into it and just be in the moment. Like today was so beautiful out. And I could just sit outside or sit and look out the window and just wait for something I need to wait for, but just do it mindfully. And think of wait time as downtime, rest time for you. Anyway, I'm sure you have better ideas than me, so go ahead and put those right there where it says answer here. So let's subtract those linear expressions. We started yesterday. We need to have like terms to subtract terms. So we cannot subtract an x term from a number like 6 from a constant. So we're going to be mindful of that. We're going to be mindful of the distributive property. And we're going to be mindful that when you have a subtraction sign outside of parentheses, it's really like multiplying by -1 times whatever is in the parentheses, because the effect of it will be to change the sign in front of every term within the parentheses. So if we're going to simplify -6x minus 8 minus the quantity of 2x minus 6, first let's write it out. Let's see what we have. Minus 8. Now we have minus positive 2x, so that's minus 2x minus -6. Well, negative times a negative is a positive, okay? Now, let's combine like terms. We've got -6 minus 6x minus 2x. So that's negative 6 minus 2, which is negative 8. So that's our negative 8x. And then we have negative 8 plus 6. So negative 8 plus 6 is negative 2. So that'll be negative 8x minus 2 as our final answer. So try a couple on your own. Do them one at a time, and you can pause the video, then come back to me, and let's see how you did. So for number 2, we want to be careful and notice that we have a negative x, and that is the same as negative 1x. Okay, the 1 is invisible. So negative x minus 10 minus 6x plus 5. So let's write this out. Negative x minus 10 minus positive 6x is minus 6x minus positive 5 is minus 5. So now we combine like terms. Negative 1x minus 6x. So that's negative 1 minus 6, which will be negative 7. So that will be negative 7x. And then we have negative 10 minus 5. So negative 10 minus 5 is negative 15. So minus 15. Okay, number 3. We have 2x minus 1 minus 7x minus 11, minus a negative 7x, minus 11. So let's write this out. We have our 2x minus 1 minus a negative, well, negative times a negative is a positive 7x, minus a negative again will be positive 11. Let's combine like terms. 2 plus 7 is 9. And negative 1 plus 11 equals 10. So 9x plus 10 is our final answer there. Number 4. So we have negative 3x minus 4 minus negative 5x plus 7. Got to be really careful of those negatives. So let's write it out. We have our negative 3x minus 4. Now, minus a negative is always a positive. 5x minus negative times a positive is negative 7. Now let's combine those like terms. Negative 3 plus 5 equals 2, a positive 2. So it would be 2x. And then we have negative 4 minus 7 is negative 11. So it will be 2x minus 11. Okay, number 5, negative 8x minus 2 minus a negative 5x, don't miss that negative sign, minus 2. So let's write this out. We have negative 8x minus 2 minus a negative, that's positive 5x, minus a negative again, plus 2. So for the x terms, we have negative x plus 5, negative 8x plus 5. So negative 8 plus 5 equals negative 3. So that will be negative 3x. And let's see what happens with the constants. We have negative 2 plus 2. Well, that's the same as negative 2 plus 2, which equals 0. So we don't write the 0. That can go away. And negative 3x is our final answer. So let's go back up to the top of the page and let's do number 6. So we're going to simplify negative 8x plus 2 minus 4x minus 3. So let's write this out. We have our negative 8x plus 2 minus a positive, that's negative 4x. Negative times a negative is positive 3. Remember, we have an invisible positive sign. If there's no sign, it's an invisible positive sign. So on the variable terms, the x terms, we have -8 minus 4, which is -12. So that'll be our -12x. On the constants, we have +5 plus 3. So that, I'm sorry, +2 plus 3, and 2 plus 3 equals 5. So that will be plus 5, -12x plus 5. In number 7, we have 3x plus 4 minus x minus 6. So let's write that out. 3x plus 4. Negative times a positive is a negative x. Negative times a negative is a positive 6. Now we have here, let me find another color, an invisible 1 right there. So it would be 3 minus 1, and 3 minus 1 is 2, and that's our x term. And now our constants are numbers without variables. It's 4 plus 6, which is 10. So our final answer is 2x plus 10. Let's move on to number 8. How are you doing? I hope you're doing great with this. You should definitely be trying them on your own. Take the risk. The worst thing that can happen is you'll get it wrong. And then you just go back and figure out what you did right or ask me for help, right? So I'm here with you. Let's really get strong on this on our own. I know you can do this. So we have 9x plus 2 minus 3x plus 3. So that's 9x plus 2. Now, the 3 here is positive, so it's a negative times a positive. That's -3x, negative times a positive, minus 3. Now, we're going to combine 9 minus 3, and we know that 9 minus 3 is 6. So we've got 6x, and then we have 2 minus 3, and 2 minus 3 is -1. So 6x minus 1 is our final answer. Okay, now moving on to number 9. Move that up a little bit. 12x minus 14 minus 2x plus 3. So we'll write our 12x minus 14. Now, we have an invisible positive sign here in front of the 2. So it's negative times a positive is -2x. And again, negative times a positive here is -3. Now we combine like terms. We have 12 minus 2. 12 minus 2 is 10x. And we have -14 minus 3. -14 minus 3 is -17. So that would be 10x minus 17 is our final answer. And now number 10, 11x plus 3 minus -x, and that negative can be thought of as a -1x, okay? It's an invisible 1, -x minus 5. So let's write this out. 11x plus 3 minus a negative. Negative times a negative is a positive. So that will be plus x. And again, negative times a negative is a positive when we distribute that negative sign, plus 5. So we have 11 plus 1, because now that x is once again invisible, right? That 1 is invisible in front of the x. So I'm going to erase it and make it truly invisible. And let's go back to our pink. So we have 11 minus 1 is 10. That's 10x. Oops. I erased something that was supposed to be positive. Sorry, let me go back. When I did my eraser, I erased and made myself a mistake. So negative times a negative is a positive. So it's a positive 1x. So 11 plus 1 is 12x. And then 3 plus 5 is 8. So 12x plus 8. So now let's move on to our error analysis. Love the error analysis. Finding those mistakes really helps us zero in on what we need to do. So in number 1, we have 3x plus 6 minus 2 minus 9x. So this person rewrote 3x plus 6. So this is okay, okay. Negative times a positive, that should be negative 2x. Negative times a negative, this should be positive. So the sign there should be addition, not subtraction. And remember the rule, a negative outside of the parentheses, I'm going to write this, a negative outside of the parentheses simply changes the sign of everything in parentheses. So that would make this negative 2 plus 9x. Okay, so that's why we need a plus sign right here. So let's solve that correctly. So we've got, it'll be 3x plus 6 minus 2x plus 9x. Oh, and the 2 shouldn't have an x. There's another error. 2 should not have an x. So let's circle that. No x. Okay, now here we go. Let's finish it up. So that should be minus 2 plus 9x. Okay, now we can combine like terms. 3 plus 9 equals 12, so 12x, and 6 minus 2 is 4, positive 4. And the final answer is 12x plus 4. Remember, guys, that terms are separated by addition and subtraction. Okay, let's go on to the second one. We have 3x squared plus 1. That's a quantity, and from that we subtract a quantity of 4x plus 2x squared. So the person wrote out 3x squared plus 1, that's okay right there, minus 4x, so we multiply negative times a positive, minus 4x, and a negative times a positive should be, oh, this is a problem, that should be subtraction, or negative 2x. So that's our error. I think that's the only error there. So that should be subtraction. And let's correct this. So then we will have 3x squared. That's this. Then we have the plus 1 minus 4x. And then this should be minus 2x squared. So we don't have, well, we do have one constant. So we're going to have 3 terms in the answer. We're going to have x squared terms, x terms, and we're going to have a constant of 1 with no variable. So 3x squared minus 2x squared. So 3 minus 2 equals 1. And we don't write 1x squared, we just write x squared. And the 1 is an invisible 1. Now we have one term with an x, so that's our negative 4x. And then we have our constant plus 1. Oh, excuse me. I think the pollen is getting to me a little bit. So x squared minus 4x plus 1, that's our final answer. So last problem. Okay, oh, we have 3 terms in the first expression. So that's pretty exciting. We've got 5x squared minus x, and that's an invisible 1x, plus 2, and that's our constant with no variable. And from that we subtract 3x squared minus 10x. So what did they write? They wrote 5x squared minus x plus 2. So far, so good. That's okay. Minus 3x. Okay, this is a problem. So that should be, we're missing an exponent. So we have no exponents there. Okay, and then they have minus, well, negative times a negative is a positive. So that's another mistake. I'll put that there. Should be addition. And I think I see another mistake. Where's my x? Okay, so I'm going to write that down too. No x. So they've got 3 mistakes there. Let's see if we can figure this out. So we're going to start with our 5x squared minus x, and that's an invisible minus 1x plus 2. And then we have negative times a positive 3x squared is negative 3x squared plus, because negative times a negative is a positive, so it's plus, we're adding 10x. So let's work on the x squared terms first. We have 5x squared minus 3x squared. Well, 5 minus 3 is 2x squared. Now the x terms, we have an invisible 1 here, so negative 1 plus 10 is plus 9 on the x terms. So that's our x terms. Then we have one constant or one number without a variable, and that's our plus 2. So 2x squared plus 9x plus 2 is our final answer there. So let's go back to our exit ticket. So what does it mean to distribute? It means to multiply an amount by another quantity in parentheses. An amount or quantity. Let's say by a quantity in parentheses. Inside parentheses. So remember, distribute is to multiply. So how are we doing with this? I hope you've given yourself a thumbs up. You're doing a great job. I love to see how much you've learned and grown this year. You did not let this crazy COVID year keep you from learning. You own this year. This is your year to shine. And think of this as the first year in the rest of your high school career, because that's where you're going to high school. And you know that you need to work hard, stay with it, and keep practicing, because when you do, you'll be great.